Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me, everybody, for another bourbon review. And today I am quite excited to talk about this particular bottle. This is the first time I've been able to get my hands on a Bardstown Bourbon Company single barrel since they came out this year. And this one had a little bit of a different mash bill and all types of things going on. I've been pretty surprised by this one. But we'll go through all these details, the proof, the age, and the mash bill, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll go into the tasting notes, break this all down, and then get into the final score. But I have a lot of thoughts to give on this particular bottle. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Pour a little bit there. That was a good, healthy pour. I'll go enjoy the rest of this standing by the fire here right after I do this review. It's nice and cold here in Ohio tonight. It is time for my first fire of the season. I'll enjoy this on the side of that. So with this pour, so this is coming out of Bardstown Bourbon Company. And I do think it's been really, really fun watching Bardstown transition to their own distillate. They have so many different mash bills, so many different varieties that it's kind of mind numbing a little bit of the things that they're releasing themselves already. These are all 6 years. They patiently waited for that 6-year mark, which is definitely a decision that I totally respect. And it's even to the point where I'm looking forward to their own distillate more than some of their blends and their source stuff, which in and of itself is a pretty impressive compliment. Now, let me pull up the stats on this particular bottle because I'm going to rave a lot about this thing, but I'm also going to, I don't know, have some knocks on it. The first one's going to be the price. So when I came across this bottle here at the store, I was really excited to see it. It is the first Bardstown Bourbon Company pick in my area I had seen, and I grabbed it kind of without seeing the price type of a thing. They didn't have a sign clearly showing the price on it. They rang it up, and with tax and everything, it was like 86, 87 bucks. And I was like, ooh, that was more expensive than I was thinking for a 6-year single barrel, right? Like, I think back to like Russell's picks. Like Russell's picks price went up into this like $85 range, but those are at least 10-year picks. And still, I was like, ooh, the price is going up. So there was a part of me that kind of like rang that credit card up, like, oh, this better be good. Whew, luckily, it didn't disappoint, but we'll get into that shortly. Now, it is 6 years, and what I also find interesting about these picks is that they're 120 proof, and that proof is literally stamped on the bottle. So I think you got like a Knob Creek thing going on where all the single barrels that you're going to be getting from Bardstown are potentially going to be all 120 proof. But if you know something different, let me know in the comments. Now, one other thing, I'll bring this bottle up yet again here for the third time, but check out the mash bill. So it's 78/10/0/12. So because they do those 4-grain mash bills, they use wheated a lot. They have to have that fourth spot. So I thought that was interesting. I talked to someone at the store to confirm that that second digit did mean rye, and they believed so. So 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. As people continue to, emulate other people's mash bills with their own stuff. I find it so interesting that you can come up with any combination, but we continue to come up with some of the same combinations. Like how many brands use 21% rye or 36% rye, riffing off of the MGP. But this one here, gosh, did it just catch me off guard. I wasn't expecting to see it that day. We got this 6-year pick. The price caught me off guard. And it had that unique mash bill that didn't match any of the mash bills of the Origin series. So I really don't know how many mash bills that Bardstown is doing, but I feel like every time I see something, it is a totally different mash bill. Well, let's get into the taste on this one. I think it's opened up enough, and I'm anticipating sipping on this thing again because, whoo, has it left an impression on me? So let's get into the nose and then we'll get into the palate. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining me this far. Man, the nose on this is just simply delicious, and it's one of those noses where I feel like I can like break it down and articulate it almost as a fully formed dessert, which made me go back and forth a little bit on that depth score. I think I could have given it an extra point on depth than what I did. There's a few aspects of this where I kind of think I underrated it a little bit, even though it's going to have a really high score in the end. But when it comes to this particular nose, what I'm getting off of this would come across as a strawberry shortcake. So if you go to the store and you see like those round cakes that come in like a package of six, that's specifically meant for strawberry shortcakes. That's the type of a doughiness that I get from it. The strawberries are there. It's then covered in whipped cream with a little bit of a chocolate drizzle and some like nutmeg and spices, kind of just drizzled on top of that whipped cream as well. Pretty good sounding dessert, right? Ah, so I can spend some time with this nose, and man, immediately upon cracking this bottle, as soon as I opened it up, I was like, "Ooh, that smells really, really good." So this thing kind of got me off of, just the cork pop, not even getting it into a glass, just literally opening the bottle. All right, let's get into the taste. Mm. Up front, I'm going to stick with that strawberry shortcake. A bit more fruits also enter the picture. I would almost describe it as a blackberry preserve, maybe. There's essentially some darkness that is in here. I think it's due to that higher malt content, is what I kind of attribute it to. But it does have this blend of low and high notes throughout the experience, and I attribute most of them to being fruit leaning. All right, let's get into the mid. Mm. Oh man, once again, it's going to be the same flavors through and through. I'm going to stick to that strawberry shortcake kind of a general profile, but there's a fruit bomb in all of this, though. I mean, I'm getting a little apricot going back to those blackberries. It travels in a whole bunch of different realms on the fruits, all on top of those strawberry shortcakes. The other thing I forgot to discuss up front too was the mouthfeel. Just a fabulous, fabulous mouthfeel. I almost gave it a perfect score on the mouthfeel. I mean, it is so rich, so coating, hits all sides of the mouth and all sides of the tongue. Just kind of just a pleasure to just kind of chew on it for a little bit. Um, yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful mouthfeel. Forgot to mention that. Yeah. Let's get into the finish, which is actually my favorite part of this whole thing. Oh man. So same flavors continue on the finish. Uh, the cakiness of it does intensify towards the finish. It's more of that dry cake, even like an angel food cake when I'm talking about the type of cake that this is. But then the malt really comes shining through at the end. Almost reminds me of the way a driftless Glen feels, or even a Willet, in the way that you kind of get that malt on the tail end. There's a lot of clove, a lot of spices going on too. And then what I really appreciate, it's almost like to the point right now as we're talking. So what, 30 seconds after I took a sip there, it crescendos into a uh, creme brulee, essentially. So you get the custard, you get that burnt sugar, and that flavor just hangs and hangs and hangs. So what a good thing to kind of like dovetail into at the very end, leaving you with creme brulee after all those other delicious desserts and all of those fruits. It just leaves you with that nice burnt sugary custard. Ah, all right. One more sip. Let's see if I find anything else there. Ah, no, I think that pretty much sums it up, but just a gorgeous, gorgeous pour. So as we get into these overall metrics on just essentially the balance of this thing, I mean, just through and through, each step of the way really does give a good experience. Was very, very pleased with that. It's not lacking in any way. And then getting into the value though, I gave it an 8 out of 10 on the value. And I teetered a little bit. I said off the top, when I saw it for 86 bucks, I kind of shuddered a little bit. And the other thing that happened to me recently, knowing what I know now, and you hear the way that I describe this pour, I had the chance. I had about 8 left at the store. The last time I was there, I don't know if they had any more in the back, but they had 8 left sitting on the barrel. And I had one in my hand and I went, "Ugh, 86 bucks. I can't do it right now." So the fact that I shuddered to buy a backup of something that I'm adoring, I was like, "Oh, that must not be a very strong value." You kind of prove it with your own actions. Now, my thought process at the time, though, was, hey, finally came across one. This is the first one I came across. It's really, really good. And I have no idea if I'm going to come across one hitting Northern Kentucky soon. So why double up on this one? Let's, kind of play blackjack. I'll hit on the next one. So that was my thought process there. But had it been like $65, had it been like a Knob Creek pick, I bet you I would have bought it. I bet you I would have bought it if it was a little cheaper. I don't think I would have hesitated. So then getting into the breakdown of the overall constructs here of flavor, experience, and value, all kind of ended up in the same way. You saw on the prior page a whole bunch of sevens, eights, nines, it just kind of all equals out into this 8 range. So flavor's good, experience is good, the value took it down a little bit. And then ultimately you end up with a score of an 83, though I think I could have given it a higher score maybe on the nose. So it drinks almost as well as an 85. I teeter a little bit on whether I scored this one right or not. At the same time, it's a 6-year single barrel. When these things get up to 8 years, 9 years, I got to leave some room in these scores because these scores are just going to go up for Bardstown. This is amazing already. So when it comes to the reviews that I've done in 2023, this ranks 19th out of 63. So it's pretty high up there amongst the 2023 releases. And when it comes to all-time releases, so I just started the scoring system, just this year. So I'm actually talking about bottles that were released beyond 2023 that made it in the scoring system. Even then, 34 out of 114 bottles. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for Bardstown's first single barrel releases here. So that concludes the score part of the Bardstown single barrel. Now, I do realize every time I do these reviews on a single barrel like this, for somebody else to experience this exact same single barrel is pretty improbable. But why I like doing these type of reviews on single barrels is it puts at least the single barrels on your radar. I will buy another one of these until they disappoint now. That's how much they've impressed me, though that price I'm a little shaky on though. But I will keep exploring these single barrels, especially if there are all these different mash bills out there. I want to keep trying it. And right now they're 6 years. Come next year, they'll be maybe 7 years and then 8 years. These are only going to get better and better and better. The Bardstown transition from the sourced to their own bourbon is just kind of thoroughly impressive. They're going to be a brand that really makes it here. So good job, Bardstown. Way to go on that transition. Really looking forward to see what you have to offer us in the future. So that concludes my thoughts on the Bardstown Bourbon Company single barrel. If you've had a single barrel yourself, really interested to hear the mash bill and what you thought of it. So let me know in the comments. Let everybody else know too. And I wonder if there's a particular mash bill that we should be keeping our eyes on as we slowly figure out what Bardstown has to offer. Well, thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these